Okay, connect to your Linux server 1, sign in, then sign into root. So you SU space hyphen, make sure you sign in as root, make sure you see the hash mark so you know you're signing properly. SU space hyphen there. Now capital PA1111. Okay, so I'm going to list Etsy, list the Etsy directory. I'm going to grep for password, grep for, no, that won't work. I'm trying to think how I do this. Password, group, shadow, or G shadow. Let's see if this works. Sorry, I can't remember how to do this. Sorry, guys. Okay, let me explain what this command does. I'm going to list everything in the Etsy directory. Then I want to grep for this file, or this file, or this file, or this file. The pipe, in this case, isn't like what we're used to pipe doing, which is taking the output from one command, making it the input for another command. In this case, pipe means or. But I need to interpret it differently because I put it in between single quotes, so if I don't put this backslash before it, it's just going to try to search for the pipe character. So I don't want it to search for the pipe character, I want it to mean or. So in a case like this, in between single quotes, I want to do backslash pipe, backslash pipe, backslash pipe. So that just means or. So these are the files that you're going to change when you set up a user account. The password is our user account database. It's called the password file, but it doesn't contain passwords. Back in the day it did, but everyone has read access to that file, so they removed passwords out of there and put them in shadow. Every time you create a user account has to have something called a primary group. When you create a file or folder, your user account will be the user owner, and your primary group will be the group owner of that file or folder. So if you don't specify a primary group, it creates one for you with the same name as the user account name. So if I create a user account name bferris, it's going to create a group called bferris as well. And it's going to put that group in the group file. Gshadow is going to be it's going to contain the group password that contains one. Well, it does contain one. It's maintained by the system. It's also going to contain the group administrator who can add or take away from that group, who can add users to that group. So these are the 4 primary files that we change every time we create a user account. Now we can manually edit these files and add all the things that we want, but it would be too much work. So we have this command called user add. Back in the day, Unix boxes used to have a command called add user, which kind of did the same thing. So some people were messing up and typing add user when they should be typing user add. So whether you type add user or user add, it runs the same command. So we're going to type and create a simple user account. User add B Ferris. No, I'm just going to do U1. Guys, I used this image already. So I'm just going to refresh my images. I'm going to close this out. You can do the same thing if you want a clean image. Go back to your script, edit it, press play, and it'll rebuild your images for you. One, you're going to download this script. Not one. You're going to download this script, go to properties, unblock it, and then edit it and play to build your images.
Is it under content?
It's under start here, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm in start here.
And it's at the bottom.
Oh.
So now my images are clean. It's rebooting for the first time.
Unblock it. Edit.
Press go. Then open up Hyper-V. I have to run my command to change my screen resolution. So normally grep just searches for one thing, the pattern that you specify, but with that backslash pipe, it'll actually allow you to grep for multiple items. I'm hitting Control Shift plus sign to increase my font size. So I'm going to do user add U1. And it creates a user account for me. If I cat Etsy password and I look at the last line, I can see there's the user account. If I cat Etsy group and look at the last line, there's the group that I created. If I cat Etsy shadow, there is my password. It also contains some other things, but I'll go into that. What's important to note right here is if I look at Etsy password and I look at the second column, if it's an X, that means the password is encrypted inside of Etsy shadow. If I see two bangs in Etsy shadow in the second column, each column is separated by colon, then I know my password isn't set. If you see 2 bang marks, that account is disabled and you can't sign into it. And lastly, if I cat Etsy group, no, G-Shadow rather. How many columns are in this?
3, 4.
4. The last one is blank. So I have a group called U1. Any members of that group would be listed here. Right now I don't have any members.
So colon, yeah, colon there.
Yeah, just keep in mind, if you see colon at the end, that means there's another column, it just happens to be blank. I have 4 columns here in G-Shadow. The user, the group name, the password, which is maintained by the system. This third column is blank, meaning who the group administrator is. It doesn't have one yet. So right now, the only person who can administer this group is root. And then again, I would have the user accounts that are part of that group. The user account's going to be in both locations. You know, so if I had created another user and I made him a member of this group, it would be here and here.
It's a quick running queries for.
Yeah. And the only reason I'm doing this tail line is just so I don't have 4,000 lines show up on my screen. If I didn't do that and I do Etsy password, it would show me everything in Etsy password. And then everything will scroll off my screen.
Unless you do like less too, right?
Yeah.
Less will do the pages.
And go backwards and forwards.
Yeah, and go back.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. This is a number of lines.
I want to see the last line. Guys, look at this. What is that little line coming off a character called at the top, like right there, on the top of this L? It's a serif. Look at the difference between L and 1. Yeah, L doesn't have 2 serifs at the bottom where 1 does. Okay, so again, if I just type this alone, it would show me all that. That's too much information. I just wanted to see the last line. Okay, so that user add command edited all 4 of those files. I'm going to type user add alone. I'm going to scroll up a little bit. So basically, if you don't type any options, it goes with all these default options. I'm going to go into all the common ones just so you can see them.
Oh, yeah.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to cat Etsy password again. I'm going to come over here and show you the man pages. So when we look at this, I'm going to go through all the columns. What each column is. The first column is the user account name. The second column is the password. If we see the password is an X, that means it's encrypted in the other file, Etsy Shadow. So the first column is the name, X is the password encrypted in Shadow. The next is the user ID. It's going to be some randomly generated number starting with 1,000 and working the way up. The next one is the primary group.
So every time I create a file or folder, my user ID will be the user owner of that file or folder. My group ID will be the group owner of that file or folder. The next one is the full name. If my user account name is B. Ferris, my full name is Brian Ferris. So that's the comment field right here. The next one is their home directory, where they're going to save their files. The last one is their command interpreter. Right now, the command interpreter is bash.
So what's no login?
No login is, do you remember how I say user accounts start with 1000 and up? Anything below 999 and below is a call to service account. When I start a service, I don't want to run that service as root. If that service gets hacked, then they'll have root privileges. So every time you create a new service, like a web server or something like that, you create a user account for that service, and then you run that service as that user account. If it gets hacked, you don't want them to be able to log in. So any service accounts will have a shell of no login. So if someone accidentally hacks that account and tries to sign in with that service account, they won't be able to do anything because they won't have a shell. So a lot of service accounts will have that SBIN no login command interpreter, which won't interpret any commands. So I'm going to do user add, and the first thing we want to do is the comment field. Okay, so I'm going to do user add. The comment will be user to U2. So I'm going to look at the last line of U2. I'm going to look at the last line of Etsy password. So now I can see I filled in that fifth column, comment field. If I cat Etsy group and look at the last line, who's my primary group? A group called U2. That's the group ID for U2.
Oh, it made one?
It made one automatically. So if you don't specify a primary group, it creates a primary group with the same account, with the same name as your user account name. So I have a user called U2, and I have a group called U2. Whenever U2 creates a file folder, U2 will be the user owner, and U2 will be the group owner. I'm going to just list my current directory. Do you see, list long. When I list long my directory, I can see that every file has a user owner and a group owner. That's what I'm referring to by group owner. That's important because that's going to relate to these permissions that we're doing next. So I don't want to start going into that, but I have a user called group, I have a root called group, the user owner root owns this file, the group owner root owns this file. So I'm going to create a group called faculty. What do you think to create a group called faculty? How would you create a group based on what you know? Group add faculty. Guys, try to follow along with what I'm doing. If I start typing too fast, just slow me down.
So I'm going to create a group called faculty. Everyone do that. Now I'm going to create a new user account called user3, and I'm going to specify that primary group. I'm going to specify that group as the primary and not let it create its own. So I'm going to do user add, lowercase g, faculty. The friendly name is user3. And the user account name is U3. That always comes at the end. Hit enter. I'm going to cat Etsy password, and I'm going to look at the last 3 lines. I'm going to cat Etsy group and look at the last 3 lines.
So I can see user 3 has a primary group of 1003. To see what that group is, you have to look at the Etsy group file and find 1003. So user 3's primary group is called faculty. There's my friendly name, my full name. There's my primary group. So I'm going to create another user account using the same primary group. Group add, no, user add, primary group is faculty. User 4, U4. And look at the last 3 lines of Etsy password. Sorry about that, a typo here.
Yeah, you did.
No big deal. I can see there's my friendly name. My primary group is still faculty.
Now I'm going to create a user account called U5. But this time,
I didn't add it as a primary group. It's now just a group member. My primary group in this particular case is going to be U5. Hey, I did get your text. But I added my user to that group, just as like a regular group membership. Let's see how that looks.
so if I cat Etsy password, and I'm going to look at the last 3 lines. And I'm going to also cat Etsy group and look at the last 3 lines.
An Etsy password My user ID is 1005. My primary group is 1005. So if I look in the Etsy group file, I can see my primary group is 105, is U5 rather. If I look at the faculty group, I can see that the group ID is 1003, but now the fourth column is filled in. So anyone who's a member of that group will be in that fourth column. So when I create a new file or folder, it will have no effect. It won't show group file at all. But if there is a file or folder that had group file as the group owner, I will be able to access that file or folder because I'm a member of that group. The purpose of the primary group is when you create a file or folder, the primary group will be the group owner. The purpose of a secondary group is if a file or folder is owned by that group, you will have those permissions to access it. I'm going to do a list long. This is the group owner of these files. If you are a member of that group, not necessarily your primary, but if you are a member of that group, you will have access to these files. And you don't know this yet, but that will be the access that you have. I'll go into this later. So there's a difference between a primary group and a secondary group. Primary groups, you use lowercase g. Secondary groups, you add uppercase G. I'm going to create another group called group staff. Let's say I want to add user 2 to that group. Not as a primary group or anything like that, just be a member of that group. Just like the same concept as Windows. I could do user add creates a new user. What if I wanted to modify a user? User mod. I want to add a secondary group, staff, for you too. Cat Etsy password grep for you too. And I can see it made no changes to Etsy password. Nothing's changed in Etsy password. But if I look at Etsy group and grep for staff, I can see that U2 is now a member of that group. I want to look for staff or faculty. So that's going to show me the staff or the faculty group. Either will give me a match. Again, it's enclosed in quotes, and I'm escaping the pipe. That means or. Show me any lines that either have the word staff or faculty. Did you add the user? There's a user there. You can't modify a user unless you add it. Okay. Now I'm going to try to add
U2 to the staff group as well, as a secondary group. So I'm going to do user mod G, look, uppercase G, faculty for U2. And then look at both of those groups.
How did I just screw up? Before, staff was a member of U2 was a member of the staff group. When I added U2 to the faculty group, I did it wrong. And I'm stressing this right here because the book tells you to do it wrong. I mean, there's a lot of books that tell you to do it wrong. When I do it this way, it removes me from all the groups and makes me a member of faculty.
So if you want to add a user to a new group, and you want to keep them part of the old groups, you have to make sure that you use G lowercase a. No, you have to use A lowercase g. So I want to add them back to staff.
The A stands for pen, meaning lowercase g will wipe you out of all, uppercase G will wipe you out of all other groups. AG will leave the other groups alone, but also add you to staff. So when you're using the user mod command, and you want to add a user to the group, you have to use AG, not G. If you're using the user add,
I could have accomplished this to do the same thing. User mod dash G, and I could specify all the groups that I want that user to be part of. This would work as well. So at this point, user 2 would only be a member of the staff and faculty group. Again, this doesn't change my primary group for U2 at all. This is just the secondary groups. A better way to handle group management is not use the user mod command. Is use the G password. Lowercase a, U2, faculty. That will add a user to a group. That's a better way, and a lot of books don't even mention this command. That's a better way to maintain group membership is with G password than with user mod. I still hear keys going on, so I'm waiting a minute. Okay, so
What does the dash C do? Comment field, normally we use it for the full name. What does the lowercase g do?
Secondary. Or primary.
Primary. What does uppercase G?
Secondary. Regular member.
Secondary groups. And again, if you're modifying it, use capital lowercase ag. Lowercase a, uppercase G. If you don't do this, At that point, it'll just remove them from all other groups and just add them to that one group you're modifying.
Do you remember when we first did the installation, how I said, or we first started with Linux, how I said root is the only administrator account? Well, every time a user needs to be added to a group, I don't want to have to get involved. If I have a manager of a department, and let's say U5 is the manager of the sales department or something, or faculty, and I want, every time that a new user needs to be added to the faculty group, I don't want to have to do it, I want to let U5 to be able to do it. So I'm going to cat Etsy group, and I'm going to grep for faculty to only see that line. And then I'm going to cat G shadow.
Etsy group, the first column is the group name. The second column means the password is encrypted in G shadow. The third column is the group ID. Then the fourth column is members of that group. In G shadow, the first column is the group name. The next column is the password. Because remember, I said it was encrypted over here. It's going to be maintained by the system. Right now, it's not set. The fourth column is the group administrator, which is not set yet. And the last column is the group members. The group members are in both places. So I'm going to make U5 the administrator of the faculty group. So G password. The G password command edits the G shadow file. Well, it edits both. If I do -A U1 faculty, it's going to edit both files. So in this particular case, with the lowercase a, when I ran this command, it added U1 here and U1 here. U1 in Etsy G shadow and U1 in Etsy group. Now, U1 is a member of that group. If I do G password, uppercase A, U5, it only changed G shadow. See the third column here? Now has the group administrator. This would allow U5, the user account, to go in and run the G shadow password to add users with the lowercase a. So if you were signed in as U5, you'd be able to run this command to add users to that group. I wouldn't have to be I could do that as a non-privileged user. I wouldn't have to be root to do that. Taking a shot in the dark. How would I remove U1 from that group? If A is to add a user to a group, D for delete. So D will delete a user from a, lowercase d will delete a user from a group in G password. Lowercase a will add a user to a group. And uppercase A will add an administrator to the group. So if you're dealing with group memberships, try to avoid the user mod command. Try to use G passwords. That's a better way to go. Lowercase a adds a user to a group. Uppercase A adds an administrator to the group. And D, a lowercase d, deletes a user from the group. Every time I create a new user account, where's their home directory stored? Inside of home. Column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The sixth column is where the home folder is going to be stored. So if I do a list home, those are all the user accounts home folders for this system. Here's the problem. If I have a bunch of user accounts and they move around a lot, when a user signs into this machine, he'll be able to access his files. But when he signs into this machine, those files won't copy over at all. So what a lot of companies do is, under home, they create a big folder called, uppercase folder called their domain name. If it was Contoso.com or whatever their company name was. If I see something lowercase, because user account names are always lowercase, here, and I see one big folder, one folder with the uppercase letters, I know that's not a home folder. It's just a convention, it's not a requirement. I can look at it and say, that doesn't contain a user account information, that contains a bunch of user accounts. So, then I would take a network share and mount it to that folder. So when I go in there, I would be on a network drive. And we'll get into this in later classes. So when I sign in, it'll automatically mount that network drive, and I'd be able to access my home folder. Anything I save will be saved on the network share. And when I sign out and go to a different machine and log in again, it would remap the network share, and at that point I'd have access to all my home folders. What concept is this equivalent to in Windows? Roaming profiles. Okay, this is how we would do it. So you would create a subdirectory under home. Maker, home, and you'd put your domain name. And when I list home, I could see that uppercase word, and I know that this is probably not, just because it's uppercase, it's probably not a user account called domain. It's probably a bunch of folders underneath it. And I would mount a network share to there. In Linux, we mount a network share to a folder name. In Windows, we mount a network share to a drive level. So if you wanted to go to a network share in Windows, you would go to the D drive, or the M drive, or the S drive. In Linux, you would go to a folder, and that would get you connected to that network share. So, now when I create a user, I want to make sure that I store his home folder in that subdirectory, not in main home. So I'm going to say user add. My primary group will be
staff. My secondary group would be faculty. My home directory would be home, domain U6. And I need to make it. My full name would be user 6, and my user account name would be U6.
That's a long one.
Cat Etsy password grep4 U6. Cat Etsy group grep4 1006.
So the group ID 1006 corresponds to the staff group. So there's my user account name, my password is encrypted in Etsy Shadow. My user ID is 106. Guys, and it just coincidentally, the group ID is 1006. The group ID is 1006, which is staff. My friendly name is user6. My home directory is home domain user6. Now, if I set up the infrastructure right, I've already mounted a network share on the domain. So it actually connected to the network share and created the folder there. Then my shell is bin bash, meaning that's what's going to interpret my commands. Okay, guys, we're going to do one more thing before the break. I showed you how to edit this field. This is automatic. The next available user ID that's available. Primary group, friendly name, specify where their home directory is. Now I'm going to show you how to change a shell. Let's say we have someone that prefers to use bin shell as opposed to bin bash. So I can do user add. The primary group will be faculty. Oh, let's do something else first. Group add text. Let's create a group called text. So user add. Primary group is faculty. They're a member of staff and text. The home directory will be on the network share. When you use D, you have to use M. Think of M stands for make for the home directory. The friendly name will be user 7. Their shell will be bin shell, and the user account name will be S7. Sorry, I had to shrink it down. I specified who the primary group was. I specified which other groups they were a member of. I specified the location of where I want to store the home folder. which was a network share in our heads. I want to make that folder at the same time. The reason why they separated this is sometimes, guys, I might pre-provision that home folder. I might have it created already. You know, let's just say I created the user account on another system that has network share. So when I create the user account on this system, I don't want to remake the home directory because I already made it on another machine. So I just want to point to it. Then you don't use the M because it's already made. So I don't need to make it again. I'm just pointing to it. The full name is user 7. The shell that they prefer to use is bin bash, is bin shell as opposed to bin bash, which is default. Then the user account name.
So I'm going to cat Etsy password grep for U7. Cat Etsy group, look at the last 5 lines.
There's my user account name. My password's encrypted in Etsy Shadow. There's my user ID. My primary group is faculty, which is 1003. I can see right there. Faculty has a group ID of 1003. There's my full name. There's my home directory, U7. And there's my shell. Also, I added U7 to the staff group and the text group. U7 there, U7 there. Okay, let's take a break. Guys, I know this is difficult. There's no nice graphic utility to do this. When you look at instructions on how to use Linux, they go by the command line. People goes, why don't you make a graphic interface? They're not going to. It's been going on since the 60s. This OS has been around, you know, Unix or Linux has been around since the 60s. This is the way it's going to be. You know, it just, you have to learn the command line stuff. It's not easy. It's, you know, that's why you get paid more money as a Linux admin than a Windows admin. If you want to keep your job, you put a Linux box in that corporation, then you get them addicted to it. So they need it, absolutely need it. That could be their file server, whatever. They'll never be able to fire you because they won't get someone else to be able to replace you. Okay, take a break. I know this is confusing. I'm not just doing this to be mean and beat you up. This is the way it is. I'm going to pause the video. Please remind me. Okay, so guys, I want to go into the columns for Etsy Shadow. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 columns. The 9th column is reserved. They haven't done anything with it yet, but there's 9 columns. The 9th one is not defined yet.
So, first column is their login name. The second column is the password. So right now, I haven't set any of the passwords for these accounts. I could do it 2 ways. Password, and then the user account name, then type the password twice. It's not going to show up on your screen. And if I cat Etsy Shadow now, I can see U1's password has been set. Now it's this big long password.
And that's the command to do it. You don't put the OR in password. Guys, if I was doing it for a script, and I had like a standard password that I use for all new accounts, I could do something like this. Okay, Jefferson. I'm going over the fields in Etsy Shadow. First field is the user account name, the second field is the password. I use this command. This command to set the password. If I wanted to, I could do something like this. Echo password, pipe it to the password command, and tell it to get it from standard in. Sorry, I want to use our standard password. Okay, and that will accept it from a pipe. So if you want a script setting up user accounts, and I highly recommend you do so you have consistent results. When you create a user account, you don't just create a user account. You have to normally create shares for that user account. You have to set the passwords, add them to certain groups based on what their job function is. So normally you have some sort of script when you create passwords or when you create user accounts. That does a bunch of things. You're onboarding your new employees. So you can do something like this in a script. The problem is someone can run my history and see the password. So in a case like this, I would force their password to be reset first time they log in. Let me go back here. That password started with a $6, right? So I did a search of Etsy Shadow encryption. If it starts with a $1, it's using MD5 encryption. If it starts with a $2A, it's using Blowfish encryption. If it starts with the $5, older versions of Linux would probably have this. This was the most common. It would be SHA-256 encryption. $6, SHA, actually it's $6. And it begins and ends with the $. So the first part of the password tells you what encryption method it's using. That might be important if you're trying to integrate a Linux authentication with a Unix, a Windows authentication, because they might use different encryption methods. So on your Windows box, you might have to specify the encryption method being used. So that tells you what type of encryption is being used. The next field is the last date the password's been changed. They have something called the epic date. I don't know why they decided to do this. All dates are calculated in the number of days since January 1st, 1970. So when I look at my Etsy password and I look at this number right here, because I just set this password, that means today, I think it's being cut off, is I just created this user account today and the password's never been changed. So it's been 18,286 days since January 1st, 1970. That's called the epic date. You remember the Y2K bug? No, you don't, because none of you are too. The Y2K bug was this thing, they built a 2-digit date for the year on all these computer systems. And they realized, wait, what's going to happen at 2000? It's going to go, everything's going to be interpreted as the 1900s as opposed to the 2000. So they had to update the system. We have a very similar thing going on with Linux right now. What happens when we reach too many beyond 5 digits? What's going to happen? Well, it's going to mess up all the Linux boxes. So down the road, that's going to have to be changed to 6 digits or 7 or 8. But right now, it's 5 digits. So it's been 8,286 days since this password has been changed. The minimum password age. That means they can't change their password between this, you don't want people to change their password more than once a day. All it's going to do is generate a ticket saying, I don't know my password. So you might want to say, you can't change your password more than once every 5 days, or once every 4 days, or 1 day, stuff like that. If there's a 0 in the field, that means they don't have they don't have to change it, they don't have a minimum password date. Now the next one is the maximum password age. So if I want them to change the password every 45 days, I would just have it 45 days. This next field would be 45 days later than this. 99,999 means they don't have a limit. Basically, it's saying you don't have to change your password for a few centuries. Warning period. You're going to, if their password expires, you're going to give them a grace period. Meaning, if you give it a grace period of 7 days and the password expired, you allow them to 7 days, and it'll warn them every time they sign in they need to change their password. If they don't change it by then, this is the date that the expiration, they're not going to be able to log in. Account expiration date. Let's say I have a temporary worker, and they're going to work for me for 90 days. Right when I set up the account, I can set up that date that that account's going to turn off. Last field is for future use. They don't have any meaning to it yet. Not for research purposes. They said, oh, we might need to do something with that, and they never did. I cannot use user add or use a mod to change these dates. I use a command called change age, not sage, change age. I'm not going to go into depth on this command, but you can change everything that's a shadow with this change age. Set the last day of the password to this, expire the account, when to make it inactive, and you can put in dates and it'll calculate the number for you based on the epoch date. You don't have to, the epoch date. You don't have to specify a date. You put in a regular date, and at that point it'll convert to the epoch date. So that's all done here. I'm not going to go into detail on this command, but I showed you how to edit at the group, at the G shadow, at the password. This is how you edit at the shadow. Except for what? What don't I edit in it with this command? The password itself. How do I edit the password? The password command. Yeah, this will set the password. All the other fields you can edit with change age.
Okay, I'm going to show you something in Windows before I go on the last thing we're going to do for user accounts. I'm going to go to this PC. I'm going to go to View. I'm going to show hidden files. I'm going to go to Users. What is this account? What's the purpose of that default folder? What does it look like?
A home directory?
A home directory. Every time you create a new user account in a Windows box, it copies this. This is the template. It creates all home folders from. We have the same thing in Linux.
So if you add something to it, any new user will get those exact same files. So insert software or text documents.
Correct. If you make a change, it won't retroactively change old users. Only if you make a change to this folder, any users created after that change would have that change. So it doesn't retroactively go back and change the other users.
Can you do that?
I'm sorry?
Can you make it retroactively change? Is there a way to do that?
No, write a script, manually loop through all the user accounts. Yeah, it is possible. I have 2 accounts that people probably aren't aware of. The default user account, which is the sample user account, the template user account, and I have the all user account. Okay. This is an environmental variable. That will take me to the program data folder. What is this? How many gamers are out there? Yeah, okay. Sometimes you might need to modify some, these are environmental variables that take you to certain directories. So I'm going to go into the program data folder. It might be different on every machine. So I don't need to know it. I can just remember the variable and it'll take me to that folder for that machine. Under Microsoft, Windows, Start menu. This is the all user settings. If I make a change here, it's going to affect all users next time they sign in. The all users used to be different in XP, but now since Vista and later, this is how you get to it. This would be the all user program. So if I make a change here, it would affect all the start menus from this point on. When you sign in, your start menu is a compilation of the all user start menu plus your own. So if you make a change here, like if I add something here, it would include it. Like if I added a new program and put the link to launch it here, all new users would have that link.
It's going to be a dumb question, but what computer would you do all these changes on? Like if I have a company, like the company I work for, 10,000 computers, what is the main computer?
I need to do on each individual one.
The image, right?
I could do it in the image, or I'm lazy. I'm going to do it in a group policy and do it in a group policy and push it out. It has to be changed on every single one. How you change it on every single one is up to you. Go around and change it, or do a group policy and make that change and force it out to all the clients.
And then they would have to reboot or something to make it effective.
Or wait a half hour, it happens automatically.
Now, if they're a remote user as when they connect the VPN and they're on the domain that way, would it still connect and do everything the same?
If they're a remote user, they log in through the VPN. At that point, it's going to go to the sysfile folder, download the new policy, apply the policy, and move on.
Okay. So conceptually, we know what we're doing. So now, how do we do it on a Linux box? I have Etsy profile. I'm just going to put an asterisk here. Etsy /RC
Is that an underscore or a dash?
Underscore. Okay, so guys, what does tilde represent? Your home directory, whoever you're signed in as. Okay, so every user in their home directory would have a bash underscore profile. So if they have any specific environmental variables or startup programs that they want just for them, it'll be stored there. If the user has any specific aliases or functions, and I'll explain what an alias or functions are, it's going to be stored in bash RC. So in their home folder, bash underscore profile will store their specific environmental variables or startup programs. Remember how I just used %, program data, %, that's an environmental variable. In Linux, we say $, and that's how we specify it. If there's any aliases or functions, they're going to be stored for that user under bash RC. If we want to make something global that affects all users, environmental variables, it's going to be stored in etc profile. This file has become a beast. It has been too big for mere humans to mortals to modify this. They don't want you to make changes to it anymore. Environmental variables. This one is for aliases and functions globally for everyone. So if you make a change here, all users would get it. If you make a change here, all users would get it. If you make a change to each individual user, you would do it here. Environmental variables, aliases and functions. Environmental variables in startup programs, aliases and functions. So if I do a list etc profile.d, D for directory. So if you want to make a change to this, you just create a custom script and drop it in here. And it will automatically execute every time that user logs, all users log in. Don't manually change the file anymore. Just create a new script that does one little specific thing and add it to this folder, and it will automatically execute as if it were part of this file. Okay, it just becomes too big to modify. So, these two files are part of our template, just like we have in the Windows the default user. So if you want to modify these files for certain users, we can do that. So right now we have this list etc scale, list all along etc scale. We can see that's our template folder. Every time a new user is created, this is what it copies. It has a Mozilla folder for Firefox, has a default bash RC, a default bash underscore profile, and every time you log off, certain actions happen. You know how you have your history? If you log off properly, it will take your history and save it to a file. So next time you sign in, it will still be there. So those are the things that happen in bash underscore logout. If someone is using a different shell, like bin shell or bin KSH for corn shell, if you're an Oracle database, you use corn scripting as opposed to bash scripting. So it's kind of popular. Or if you're old school C programmer, you might use bin C shell.
C shell is in the programming language C. They won't read these files, or all of them. They might read this, but none of the others. So you need to be sure that, you've had scenarios where you've customized this and the users aren't getting the customization. Well, if you're not using Bash, you're not going to get it, because he's only applied to people using Bash. So it all depends on what shell they're using. There's very similar shells, there's very similar files for corn shell. So if you want to customize your corn shell environment, you might have to create a corn shell file and then have them read that automatically. Shell was not designed to read any of these files but this one. I don't know about C shell, I've never used it. Okay, so what you can do is you can create customized shells. So if you're a sales user, these are the default things you're going to have. So we're going to copy recursively Etsy scale to Etsy scale cells. So every time we make a new user account, we're going to specify this skeleton directory as opposed to the other. They're the follow. So I'm going to make a group add cells. For a lack of a better example, let's say sales users need to know information about their PC, their IP address, and their routing table. So you would do IP adder to look at their IP address, and IP route to look at the routing table. Guys, nothing's configured on this box yet. I actually broke it intentionally, so you guys couldn't surf the internet. Then we keep getting this error because it's trying to correct what I try to break. But let's say sales users don't know a lot of commands, so they don't want to type that every time. So I'm going to vi Etsy scale dot bash rc. I want to create an alias or a function that goes in bash rc. If I wanted to create an environmental variable, that would go into bash underscore profile. No, I don't want to do that, sorry. Did anyone hit enter?
Yes.
Okay, bash. Okay, hold on 1 second. Escape, Q, enter. Escape, Q, enter. And this will get you back to the command prompt. I want to edit the customize skeleton.
Escape into the top.
Just keep common.
Colon.
Escape.
Colon.
You're clicking
You don't use it.
Q. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you guys thought it was a.
Yeah, no, it's not a combination, it's one after the other, sorry.
Got it. I'm like,
Okay, so I'm going to edit this. I want to get, let's say this is really long. I want to get to the bottom very quickly. If you're not with me, let me know. I'll come back to you.
this is the same thing we were just supposed to do?
Yeah.
Correct.
Colon,
There you go.
$sign will get me to the bottom line quickly. Colon, $sign. I want to go into insert mode below my current line. Lowercase o.
So I did this, and then O. That's where I'm at. I'm insert mode below my current line.
Do you need me to come back there?
Click again on the window. There we go. Escape again. There we go. Now column. Dollar sign.
Colon,
For some reason mine's not showing me.
dollar sign to get to the bottom, then type O.
Guys, I'm just going to hit one more enter just so I can, for readability. Function. Next set.
That's what I was trying to figure out. It hasn't worked this way.
This cursor doesn't come up. You're in the line, but you're not. You can't see it. You're
Yeah,
pretty
that's
much guessing.
That's the problem.
Can't see the. So he's guessing pretty much. But he's in it. He clicked that.
Struggle with it.
There you go.
I don't know why it didn't show it. So basically, when someone runs net set for network settings, it's going to run all these commands. I'll explain what these are. They're called shell parameters, and I'll show you how they're automatically assigned. And I want to show you what they are.
Guys, that's an example of a function. And this is an example of an alias.
It's like a shortcut. No, let me give you a better one.
Guys, you know how we always type cat etc password? I want to type this pass, and I want it to run this command. Okay, actually I'm going to run this command, tail -1.
Creating a variable and giving it a command.
A shortcut.
Shortcut.
Right, so whenever I type pass, it's gonna run this command.
There's not a it is a variable.
It's just a shortcut. A variable, something different. I would say $sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. That just saves that data in that there. This is not saving the data. When I type this, it will execute that command. Yeah, it's like a little script. So what's the difference between a function? Well, this really runs one command. This will run multiple commands. You know, instead of doing list long, you know, ls hyphen dash l, the system already has automatically has an alias called ll. So we type ll would be list long. Okay, so this is an example of a function which runs multiple commands. An alias is just a one-to-one.
They're never running, and then we hit back.
Hit escape, :WQ.
Alright, good. Right, good.
You want to ask something?
And then yeah, right. WQ.
Colon WQ. And then
So right click here. No, we need WQ.
Okay.
Right click.
And the C.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
Because like if you do like nano or anything, you have to get X in and add what you want to save.
Or is that already
Right, yeah,
No, you have to add it here if you want it only for one user, or add it here if you want it globally.
Oh.
Okay? So if you want global aliases,
Yeah.
everyone will get here.
Pretty much very transfer.
This will only affect sales users that I create from this point on. So if I create a sales user, they'll have these aliases in this function. If I wanted to have it for all users, I would just add these files. Okay, so I'm going to save this. Now I'm going to give you an example of a environmental variable. Let me think. What the name? There it is. Couldn't remember the name of the file. So I'm going to hit enter. Guys, it's not very big. I'm just going to use the down arrow. How do I go to insert mode below my current line? O. For a lack of a better example, I'm going to do date. No, my date equal it's going to run the date command. The output of that command will be saved there. So if they sign in, it's going to run this command. Save the output into my date. And when they echo that, it's going to show them the date and time they logged in. If they wait 4 days, it'll still show the date and time they logged in. It won't change every time they run this. This is only going to run once when they log in, and it'll save it in there. So, if they need to prove what time they logged in, it'll be stored under my date. It's not going to change every time you echo the command. It's only run once. The output of that command is going to be saved as data in that variable. Okay? So this is an example of an environmental variable. So I'm going to escape, :Q. Guys, if I didn't want to do that because I'm lazy, Shift ZZ is the same as escape, :WQ.
uppercase ZZ.
Says no right C/ change add, exclamation point to override.
That's what I got.
Skip colon Q, and then just enter and see what that.
Okay.
We have the thing.
You include colon WQ.
So what was the cause of not getting that, or getting that error?
Because you didn't put W. You're just trying to quit without writing.
Okay, so colon WQ or uppercase ZZ. So guys, I'm gonna create a user account. What number are we on? 8? Okay, so this is gonna be long, guys. This command is gonna be long. User add. What's the primary group? Cells. Because remember, we created a group called cells up here. Just for giggles, we're going to add them to the faculty, staff, text group as well. We're going to store the home folder on the network share. We're going to make that home folder. Their full name is user 8. It's kind of convenient that all of our users have the first name user. Makes it easy. We're going to use our custom skeleton directory, K for skeleton, Etsy, scale, cells. Guys, I didn't hit enter, just word wrapped. Guys, I don't want to specify an alternate command interpreter because I need bash. Because if I don't use bash, it won't read these files. And the user account name is U8. Set the password. Guys, I forgot this. Sorry. It won't accept the password if you don't say get it from standard in. So I forgot that switch. Now I'm going to sign in as that user. If I do not put that dash, it's a switch user space dash space. That dash means read these two files. If you do not put that dash, it will not read these files for that user account. So that's the difference between with the dash, without the dash. So I'm going to sign in. Guys, when I sign into another user account from root, it doesn't prompt me for the password. That's fine. Look, set. What was it? Net set. Okay. Net set, Brian Ferris. Guys, I want to cat that file just so I can show you. Cat tilde dot bash rc.
this little bracket right here, I'm allowing it to accept parameters. Anything I type after net set, like net set space Brian space Ferris, it passes Brian Ferris into the script. The first one is automatically assigned to $1. So when I say echo $1, it's going to show Brian. When I say echo $2, it's going to show Ferris. When I say echo $0, that's the program that's running it, or the script name that's running it. In this case, it's being run by bash. So when I did this command, net set Brian Ferris, I'm going to scroll up just a little bit. It's showing me Brian, $1, $2, $0 is the calling script or the calling program. So in this case, it was bash.
It's not working for me.
I'll come around. And $hash tells me how many variables, how many parameters were passed into the script. In this case, 2. Which is good because maybe you're expecting 2, and you want to test to make sure you got 2. If you didn't get 2, error out and say retry. So you can always test whether you got the number of variables that you are expecting. I want you to type in 2 things, you gave me 2, good, I'll let the script run. I want you to type in 2 things, you only gave me 1, error out and try again. So this right here is just allowing you to pass things into your script, and they're automatically assigned. They're called shell parameters. The first item is automatically assigned to $1, second $2, and so on. $0 is the thing that called the script, or the script name itself. We're not using a script, we're just using a function. So the calling one is actually called bash. That's our interpreter. How many things were passed into this script? 2 things were passed. Brian and Ferris. So that's a function.
Wait, could you take in the number of inputs, and then could you take the number of inputs and then feed it into echo and
that's what I'm doing right here. It automatically assigns. It automatically calculates this for me. So if I put in 2, it'll show me 2. Let me show you this. Let me do it with 4. Okay. So I'm going to do net set 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to pass it 4 arguments. It's going to show me 1 and 2, because that's what the script said. Echo $1, echo $2. Echo the calling script, which is assigned to $0, which is bash. How many arguments did it accept? How many arguments were passed in? 4. So yes, you can. It's automatically for you.
But what I'm asking is that could you take that number and feed however many inputs you have?
Oh yes. Oh, he's asking based on that number. Yes, I could create a loop that goes through 4 times. I don't want to go. I don't want to go there right now. You can create a for loop, and there's a command called seq, S-E-Q, seek for sequence, and you can do a command whatever that number is. Test equal 4. SEQ 1 $test. Okay, so, but you would say, this will automatically be done for you. You would say sequence 1 to $hash. That'll be the number of arguments you receive. Okay. Okay, escape out of that. Okay, no. I changed my skeleton cells. You change your default.
So I did the net set Brian Ferris, and then I tried to do the
Could you sign in as root, SU, oh, no, who am I? Okay, type exit. Hit the up arrow. Okay, let me go back and see. Because you edited that, not the one under the six. That one is a different file. This is for Bash profile. But with Bash RC, you edited the default, not the customized one.
Same thing that I did.
Okay, so on my cat underscore bash RC. Guys, the other thing we did was set up an alias pass. So every time I type pass, it's going to run cat etc password tells show me the last line. The reason why we need to put these things in bash RC is when I log off, my memory is erased. So any alias or function I created in that session are gone. So when I relog in, I want to reload those aliases and functions so I have them available to my new sessions. Okay, guys, the last one is echo the environmental variable. $ my date. My date. That's when I logged in. That's not the current date. That's when I logged in. So it's not every time I echo this, I'm just resolving this variable to the value that's saved in it. I'm not rerunning the resetting variable. I'm just displaying what's saved in it. It was actually executed when I logged in, saved the value in the variable, and I'm just displaying that value. That's not my current date, that's just when I logged in. Okay? There's no way in the world I'm starting to do permissions at this late hour. So I'm going to end the class here. Next time we come, I'm going to give you accounts to set up, like test accounts. I'm going to say I want this setting, this setting, this setting. So go home, play around, review this. I'm going to upload the video. So next time you come in, I'm going to give you user accounts to set up, 4 or 5 accounts, just so you can understand, get some practice doing user accounts. Any questions?
So what was the mistake that I did? Sorry, I did it directly in the default. I only copied the one that we copied.
Right. You modified the default. But listen, guys, when we come in, run the script next time so you have a clean base so you can recreate these user accounts. Okay?